Well, is it working? All right, well, we're going to get started, whether it's working or not. Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to yet another Average Podcast. I am your host tonight, and I've got a couple of wonderful special guests with me as well. And tonight we're going to get into all things about cursed movie sets. We've got 4 movies we're going to cover. We're going to talk about all of them and the curses that are said to be associated with each of those movies. So, looking forward to getting into that. I do want to do some disclaimers real quick that any opinion and information that you hear on this channel is just that, our opinion, and are based on our research and our thoughts on the subject matter, and don't necessarily reflect even within the co-host. So just feel free to fact check anything you want to check, and if you have any comments or anything you want to add or question, please do so in the chat. We would love to hear your thoughts on it. So we are going to get started tonight. You guys know that we've got my co-hostess with the mostest, Mitchie. Hello, Mitchie.
Hi.
How are you tonight?
Good. How are you?
Good. Thanks for being here again. Always enjoy your contributions and look forward to hearing what you have to say about this. Now, Mitchie, what you guys might not know is that Mitchie, I don't prep her in advance for these. So I do a lot of the research and figure out what's going on with it, with the topic at hand. And then I just present it. And then Mitchie just reacts to the things that I present. And so she doesn't always know exactly what I'm going to say. And that's why it kind of flows the way it does. As well tonight. So anyway, thank you, Mitchie, for your contributions in that fashion. Always fun to have it. So tonight we also have a special guest over from another YouTube channel, B for Brandon. And his name is, anybody want to guess in the chat? Yeah, it's Brandon.
Well, you literally just said his name.
Yeah, so Brandon is joining us from B for Brandon, and he has covered at least one of these films on his channel from a cursed movie set, and so that's why I want to get his input on that. So here is Brandon. Welcome, Brandon.
Hello.
How are you?
I was hoping someone would guess my name was B.
B for yeah.
I was gonna say Brad.
Could have guessed any number of things, but I think the
I know, right?
For Brandon kind of gave it away. I should have maybe held off on that, but no, thank you for being here tonight. You are well versed in the subject matter. I know that you and I have talked about things paranormal in the past, as well as cursed movie sets, and you got a whole video on that. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do?
Oh well, obviously my name is Brandon.
There you are. You're back.
Okay, I'm back.
Yes.
But you got to really.
Okay, so I don't know where I left off, but kind of like doing the movie thing. That's kind of my passion. Always been my passion growing up, is being a big movie nerd. So talking about movies is kind of my passion. So I'm happy to do a YouTube channel and kind of share all the useless knowledge that I have with everyone else. So.
Well, I think it's great because your YouTube channel and your content is just a variety. You cover a lot of different things from movies, video games. You've done curse sets, you've done funny stories, you've done your TV show reviews are fantastic and disturbing all in the same time, depending on the topic.
To be completely honest with you, that's how my brain works. Is I may be thinking about a cursed movie set, and then maybe thinking about the woman who ate poop on Hoarders, and that's how my brain, it keeps me up a lot at night thinking about stuff I could do. So
yeah, that one and the guy who peed his wife's fiance's name in the street.
John and Gail, yes.
Yeah. Popping in the Show Me State says, good evening, everyone, and be sure to smash that like button. Thank you so much. Appreciate that. So we got a lot of stuff we're going to talk about. Let me get us all on camera here and just make sure that this is working correctly. But yeah, everything looks good. We have 4 movies that we're going to discuss tonight. We're going to start kind of, I've kind of gone back and forth on this. I kind of want to start out with like a banger and then end on a banger and then sandwich them in between. So I think despite maybe our conversations prepping for this, we're going to skip ahead and go to The Exorcist to begin this thing. Now, as many of you might know, but most of you may not know, my all-time favorite horror movie I probably got 2 in that category, but I think my all-time favorite horror movie is The Exorcist. It's held the test of time. It's still scary to this day, and I love everything.
We're talking
about
about the old one, not the new one that you complained that you paid for
Not
popcorn.
the one that we did the review on
Paper.
that just came out last year. No,
Okay.
not at all. I am talking about the OG Linda Blair. Came out December 26, 1973. I don't know if you can imagine that. It came out the day after Christmas. Imagine the horror within the Christian communities and the religious communities that this movie released the day after Christmas. I can't imagine.
It's just kind of creepy to think that that's what they plan to do.
Yeah, they came up with that and just ran with it like it was just their thing. So I'm going to fix one thing on here while I'm looking at it. Okay, and that's what we do in real time right here on the channel because, technical difficulties happen. But yes, December 26, 1973, the movie was just impeccable. It was great on every front, and I don't know, I loved it. So, and I even remember as an adult, just to share a little story, I remember as an adult years ago, maybe, I don't know, it was right after they released it again with like 10 seconds of additional content or whatever, where she does the spider walk down the stairs backwards. When they released that, I remember turning it on at like 3 o'clock in the morning and watching it because I couldn't wait to see it. And it scared me so bad I had to turn it off. Turn all the lights on in my house.
Okay, so because I've only seen The Exorcist like 3 times, so the scene with her walking backwards down the stairs was not in the original film?
Correct. That was... Okay. I think it was part of the original filming, but it was not added until later, until just, I don't know, however many years ago.
Okay, wow. Because I watched it much later in life, I was probably 18 when I watched it, so.
Gotcha, yep. Yeah, so originally, obviously, the storyline of the movie is Reagan, who is the little girl played by Linda Blair, which, let's get on here, and we got Linda Blair right here. Reagan was played by Linda Blair, and she was demonically possessed by the devil or by a demon and lead a healthy, normal life. But all of the, there are reports of the bed shaking and the various things happening that they portrayed in the movie happening in real life as well. So this movie being the subject matter that had prior to this, only one movie really had come out in this manner. The Rosemary's Baby just came out a couple years prior, and that was the first one that really kind of stared the devil in the face and said, we're going to go at this from a spiritual, religious, the devil possession type framework. So they came out strong with that in Rosemary's Baby, but a lot of that was innuendo and kind of, like you never saw the baby, and it was a uniquely different movie. And then The Exorcist just smacks you in the face. You've got Reagan puking up green pea soup and looking horrifying and talking in a demonic voice and saying things that shock you to your core, all of those things. But it didn't come without a price, right? Tons of stuff that happened in that movie have led it to become famously known as a cursed movie. So before we get into that, Mitchie, what did you think of the movie The Exorcist? Where would you put that on your list?
It's definitely my top 3.
Top 3.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I really liked it.
I thought it was terrifying and still terrifying. I will say that I watched The Shining when I was like 5 years old.
By on accident.
Shout out to my parents.
No, your mom didn't just say, come on in, Jeremy, take a seat with me and watch The Shining.
I just happened to walk in on that movie when my parents were watching it, and it was the scene with the twins in the hallway, and I then physically became ill and tossed my cookies right there in the living room. And that was my intro to horror movies. But so Shining is high up on the list, but The Exorcist scared me to my core. Not even from a religious standpoint, just from the sheer horror of the way she looked, the way she talked, the things that were happening. I've always been kind of creeped out by anything that involves priests and nuns and things like that. All the great horror movies that I can think of have that kind of layer to them. So I enjoy that.
Well, I mean, here we are 51 years ago it came out, and it still holds up. I mean,
yeah.
So
Yeah,
that says something about it as well.
it most definitely does. All right, so we're here to talk about why it's cursed, and so let's get into some of those. Yeah,
Are you willing to test the theory?
I'm willing to test a theory.
All right. Well, you guys keep talking. I'll be right back.
Oh boy! All right, I'm going to move this to this camera then, as Mitchie excuses herself for a moment. So one of the things, so many things happen. In fact, I've got a long list of various things. We'll get into these in a minute, but there were 9 deaths associated with this movie from cast and characters, from cast and family members of cast and other people associated with the production of this movie. So we're going to hit on that. We're going to hit on that here in a few minutes. But first, kind of what led into it, and what maybe I think had to have been a sign from the get-go, was they built this movie set based on the house that they did perform this exorcism in, and before they even started filming, the set caught fire. They never figured out why it caught fire. They just know it did catch on fire, and they suggested that they had a number of theories, but they go over solo cam because I think Brandon is froze again. We don't really know why, but the set burnt down, and the only part of the movie set that stayed is Reagan's room, where they filmed the actual exorcism. So the whole movie set burnt down except for that one room for Reagan.
Which is crazy.
Absolutely, right? I mean, what are the odds? Mitchie, tell me when you're ready. You let me know. I don't know. Oh, God, Mitchie. Okay, here's what we got, all right? So I don't know if you're going to be able to see this. You can't see this. Let me get onto the guest cam here. It's not there. Okay, so Mitchie has this doll that she found. You're going to have to, here, once, I bet I can fix it. You're just going to have to twist the camera around a little bit. I can't reach it. Sorry, just slightly. All right, there you go. That's good enough. That's good enough.
Okay.
So Mitchie bought this creepy doll, right? At what was it, a flea market or something?
The best place to buy creepy dolls.
Yeah, and it came in that case. So it's locked up in this case. So the one thing that we just finally brought it in from the garage. We've had it for weeks. Brought it in from the garage, and she now has that EMF detector sitting next to it. So
I was going to ask about that detector.
Yes. Now, the only thing we have not done yet, Mitchie, and feel free to do that while we're doing this movie or this live stream, is we have not opened that case yet. And in order for it to, it's
well, I don't know her name.
Well, she'll tell us at some point. So feel free to open it. But okay, let's get back into this. So the movie set burns down, right? And everything except that. That's insane. Still don't know why it burnt down, but the official insurance was that a bird flew into that, an electrical box, and it caught it all on fire. So then several accidents happened on set. Linda Blair was injured on set. Ellen Burstyn was injured on set. In Reagan's case, or Linda Blair's case, the harness that she was attached to that would flailed her body around on the bed, one of the straps broke, and it violently shook her, and it actually fractured her lower back.
Yeah.
She screamed in pain, make it stop, it hurts. And all of that is still in the movie.
Yeah, the director.
And it flung her backwards into the movie set against the wall, and I think there was a dresser there. And when she did it, she got injured as well. I don't remember exactly how, but she hurt her back as well, and she had, screamed out in pain, and they left that in there as well. And I think she was kind of upset. I think she was pissed that they left that in the movie, like they took advantage of the situation.
But I'm still curious why she wouldn't have went ahead and done the next one. I mean, I know she was in it, but not in it.
Well, who? Linda or
yes,
Ellen? Yeah, because Linda Blair did do the next one, but Ellen Burstyn, she did it all the way up till she was just in the last one.
Yeah,
you are back, Brandon.
That was pretty cool.
I'm sorry for the difficulties.
I have the stream playing on my phone, and it seems like we're all freezing. So I don't know.
Oh, okay, that's good to know. I've got it playing, but it's over here just out of my line of sight. So
Okay.
I can see.
haven't seen
Hopefully,
it.
it's not me messing up the stream.
No, not at all. We did have our internet went out earlier today, so it might just be doing that. And if it does do that, we can regroup and create a video and upload it at a different time. But
That's why I have this
hopefully
up.
it'll go. through.
And one thing too about the
OBS is cutting in and out. I think it is definitely our internet. Every time you go to tell a good story, it cuts out.
I know it doesn't want me on here.
But this is kind of goes to your story that we'll get into later as to all the technical difficulties that happen when we try to talk about these subject matters.
Right. Oh yeah, I didn't even think about that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So but what I had mentioned was about the fire, that it caused a 6-week delay. They had to call in a Judas priest to even bless the set to even continue, is what I had read. I don't know if you mentioned that or not.
Nope, you're absolutely right. I forgot to bring that point up. They actually, after they rebuilt the set, they did have a priest come in and bless it. Absolutely. I read somewhere that they performed an exorcism on the set, and then I read somewhere else that they blessed the set. I don't know if
on the set of Exorcism.
Yeah, I don't know if they actually.
Yeah, but they do. They
clear.
But they do both. They do like locations. They do
Zelda.
people.
She was my favorite. Yeah, they do. You're right, Mitchie. They do.
I hate you.
No, I was movie quoting the Poltergeist that we're going to get into here in a little bit.
Oh.
Okay, so Jason Miller, who played the father, the priest that did the exorcism, the younger one, Father Karras. How do you pronounce that? Karras, I believe. He was approached by a priest in the street that did not know about the book that was written, because originally the story was a true story that came out of Maryland and St. Louis, and then it became a book, and then they transcribed that book into a movie. And that priest didn't know anything about this movie or this book that was coming out. So that priest approached him on the street and said, if you reveal the devil for the trickster that he is, he will seek retribution against you, or he will even try to stop what you're doing to unmask him. And then he handed him a blessed medallion and walked away. That was it. So he didn't know about the movie. He didn't know about the book. He didn't know what the topic or the subject matter or anything was going on. And he just randomly walked up to him, spoke that quote, basically saying, don't piss off the devil, and then handed him a medallion and walked away. That's creepy.
I mean, if that doesn't tell you, hey, I should probably stop doing this, I don't know what does.
Right. Yeah.
He's like, back to work. Let's go, guys.
I mean, I'd be out. Sayonara, I'm out. All right. So then we talked about there were 9 linked deaths. Now I'm going to talk about the ones that are filming started. Then you had 2 cast members who were in the movie and died in the movie, and then within a very short period of time afterwards died in real life. And those actors were Jake McGowan, who played Burke Dennings, who was the movie producer in the movie. He died before the film was released from influenza, which is, I mean, not completely uncommon, but it's not exactly common that you would die from influenza. And then Vasiliki Malarios, she died. Right. She was Father Karras' mother and died prior to the film's release. Well, both those characters died.
Which I didn't see why she died.
Was she old?
I didn't either, except that she was old in the movie. So,
I
almost have to imagine it was, natural causes, but certainly, for old age. But I don't know. I have Martin Heyman died 2 years after the release. He was only 59 years old now. Martin Heyman. Oh wait, you know what? I've got. By the way, let's go back here for a second. So, all right. So this is Father Karras. This is Jake McGowan, who died of influenza. This is the mother of Father Karras in the movie, and she's the one that passed away.
She's older.
And yeah, she was older in the movie, and then she passed away before the release. Martin Heyman was also died 2 years after the release, and he was only 59 years old when he did die, so he was very young for that to happen. One of my, I love this guy, and was sad to see this, but this is Lee J. Cobb. He passed away of a heart attack 2 years later after the movie came out.
Which he looks a lot like Gene Hackman.
He does look like Gene Hackman. I've seen him in other
Yeah.
movies. He was in a number of other
I thought he was
things.
in Shawshank or
I
something.
think he was because he'd passed away long before Shawshank. He was in. I think he did some television work as well. He played a great investigator or police.
Yeah, if you pull that picture back up, he kind of looks like Brooks from Shawshank Redemption.
Yes. Yes.
Maybe not now.
Yeah,
I'm seeing him.
he-
That's Gene Hackman.
that's Gene Hackman. It looks like Gene Hackman, absolutely. Okay, so another one. This is Paul Bateson. No, that's not Paul Bateson. That's Paul Bateson. This one was a little bit creepier. So this was Paul Bateson. He was he's an actor, obviously, radiographer. He was in the film during that scene when Reagan was in the hospital. And he was, during the production of the movie, he was convicted of murder and was linked to 6 other murders that they believed he did. He was a serial killer. So that came out in the midst of producing or making the film, shooting the
Yeah,
film. And then Mercedes McCambridge, who is this one that I brought up for just a second. If you can believe it, that woman right there played the voice of the demon. And it's an interesting story because they interviewed her. She said she chugged whiskey and chain smoked to prepare for the part. Got her voice really raspy and just went all out with it. So,
I mean, that sounds like a good way to prepare for a role, but I mean,
I'm not going to chain smoke for it, but maybe, I don't know, whatever.
no,
Depends on what the pay is, I guess.
I don't know. Do you gain your voice back after you do that, or does it?
I
think you
don't
damage your vocal
I don't know
cords,
either.
probably.
I would think that, the way she, because I think that one of the scariest parts of the movie is the voice of that demon. So she just
I would
killed
agree.
it. Absolutely killed it.
How'd she get the part if they already, if they knew what her voice sounded
For
like?
me, it's
did they
probably the
want it
head
to change?
spin, walking backwards down the stairs, and then just the projectile vomiting.
Yeah, and mine was when she walked into the living room while they were all standing around the piano and
Oh.
just peed on the carpet.
Yeah.
That, the first time I saw it, I was like, "Ooh, gross," whatever. I was a kid, but as I got older, I'm like, "Oh, crap! What's about to go down?
Yeah.
We're getting serious." Mitchie, I'm sorry, what were you saying?
I said, why did they pick her to be the actress if her voice didn't sound like that one?
Well, this is a very young picture of her. I will say this. This picture was taken in the 50s. This movie came out in 73. She was much older, and I think her voice naturally had a rasp to it. And I think she just played off of that and went deeper into that. So, yeah. But oddly enough, the film company thought that it would be scarier for people to believe that Reagan voiced that demon. And so they originally left her off the film credits, and she had to sue to get her name in the credits of the film. I thought that's just a little bit of Hollywood nonsense for you. But
Yeah, right.
But the scary part of that is that her son, after this film, offed his wife, son, and then ended his own life. In a double murder, you know what? And so that's part of the 9. Excuse me, hit the microphone there. But that was part of the 9 deaths that were attributed to this movie. So, Dead Zone Citizen, welcome. Thank you for being here. So you mentioned something that interested me that I didn't know. Now, what I think is probably one of the weaker films of the Exorcist franchise, the third one. What did you tell me about that?
Yeah. Well, one of the weird things about the third one is not good at all. But apparently, the third one, the famous, I don't know if you can say famous, but
Infamous.
Jeffrey Dahmer was obsessed with watching The Exorcist 3. He watched it over and over again. And, that's just one of the things that stuck out to me whenever I was learning about Dahmer, is that his favorite movie was Exorcist 3, which is really, really
So
weird to
bizarre.
me and very creepy.
Think about the disturbing person that he was, and you had movies like House of a Thousand Corpses or The Exorcist, the original one, or I mean, there's just so many to choose from. That Exorcist 3 was his favorite.
Yeah, it's kind of
I mean,
crazy.
it's kind of disturbing. What a weird. But so, all right, so regrouping, all of those things have led this movie to be believed as cursed. From it being based on a true story, the set burning down, the priest approaching Father Karras or Jason Miller in the street and having that conversation, the injuries that happened, all the deaths associated with it, as well as just being a disturbingly fantastic, scary movie. That is The Exorcist in a nutshell. 1973, December 26th released, and will live on for all time and eternity as one of the greatest and scariest movies of all time. I think when you Google the scariest movies of all time, Exorcist is still right up there at the top.
Right, yeah.
So yeah, it's definitely one worth checking out if you are a horror fan and you haven't seen it. If you're a horror fan, you've seen it. If you aren't a horror fan, you should check it out if you just want to spend an evening crying yourself to sleep because you're scared.
Well, you also got to
or
remember,
not sleeping.
Or not sleeping.
You also got to think too, like it's scary to us because we grew up on films like that, where nowadays CGI and everything's like.
Yeah, that's the thing about The Exorcist, though, is it didn't need the CGI. I mean, there are some kind of corny when the demon face pops up and it's just, I mean, some of that kind of special effects didn't last, but everything else did. From the way she looks, her progression from being a young girl.
It's really good. Like,
to
it's really demon. Good.
Yeah. Sassy Cajun, welcome in. So I think that's why it holds the test of time, because there weren't a lot of CGI. There wasn't a lot of graphics. There wasn't a lot of special effects that needed to be done. The special effects that were done were like raising her off of the bed or making the bed shake, things like that. I think that those were all, it's not like watching the original King Kong now when you're used to seeing all the CGI.
Well, and to me, too much CGI kind of ruins the movie for me. Where I'm like, it looks kind of cheesy. But the thought of, the not CGI, there's a certain part of realness to that makes it more authentic to me. Yeah. Instead of watching CGI demons flying around and stuff like that, it's not scary to me. But the non-CGI is, I don't know why, but it just seems more real.
Yeah. So, Mitchie, we watched a film, and it had Jeffrey Dean.
Yeah, the possession with the Dybbuk
possession,
box,
right?
The Dybbuk box.
Yes. Well,
it was the
was it that one, or no? It was the one where he was a priest.
Oh, are you talking about the one where he was a priest and he went? No, he wasn't a priest. He was a journalist, and he went to go do a story on that girl that thought she was like Mary.
Yes. So my point to that story is that film that he was in, I thought was very well done, and I enjoyed it as a horror
You like
movie.
The Possession too.
But the last scene, the end scene, was so much CGI that it just completely almost ruined the entire movie. Like, it went from being this really great story, and then it just got completely like, oh, that's the most fake thing I've ever seen.
Yeah, they blew it at the end.
Yeah. So they can definitely do that with CG. But yeah, I love Jeffrey Dean Morgan in general. So any scary movie that he was in, I thought has been pretty decent. Okay, so that is that one in a nutshell. Let's go and talk about one that I'm going to put in the category of, I don't really know that I would say it was cursed in the sense of like ghosts and demons or scary things, whatever. This is more cursed in that, like, if it could go wrong, it did go wrong. And you know what? Right. There wasn't like some demonic force trying to prevent the movie from happening. This was more just a like accident after accident after accident that prevented the movie from getting done, and did everything it could to derail the entire movie as a whole. And that is, go back to it here for a second. I got to remember to work these buttons a little bit better here, but Jaws. So we've got Jaws on the list next.
Oh.
And there was a lot that happened in the movie Jaws, right? That you could say was a curse set in the way I might say, like, my car is cursed because it breaks down. And obviously one doesn't exist like that. So what they did, we're reconnecting. Give us a second here. I think we're back. Okay.
For a second.
Okay. So again, I don't know how much I got out, but what I was saying is this information I'm about to share is based on the research that I did. I'm kind of reading some of it from the script that I read. So I'm no intention of offending anyone or anything. If I say the wrong word or use the wrong terminology, I apologize.
I don't think you get offended.
Okay. But so we've got the Jaws is supposed to be this giant great white shark, larger than life, kind of unlike anything you've ever seen. And obviously it doesn't exist in real life. So in order to make the sharks look bigger, they hired a little person to play Richard Dreyfuss's stunt double. And to match the image, they had to give smaller tanks to the diver as well. So they put him in a cage underwater, made the sharks look bigger because the person was smaller and had smaller tanks. The only problem is nobody bothered to tell them, or they didn't bother to do the research that a normal sized person and a in what they're calling a little person, I don't know what they're politically correct. So I apologize. Anyway, they breathe the same amount of freaking oxygen. So the guy literally almost drowns. Not only did a shark like try to eat him, but then he almost drowns because he runs out of oxygen. And they have to yank him back up to the set or back up to the boat. He's obviously pissed and he's done. Walks off the set. Never.
Yeah, he refused to go back.
Yeah. Well, here, let me dangle you out as shark bait and not give you enough oxygen. I'm out too.
Yeah, let's shoot it again.
Yeah, let's get another take. And with Steven Spielberg, I should have told you this came out June 20th, 1975. Director Steven Spielberg, probably okay.
So I've got one. Yeah. I don't know if we're going to go over this, but I like Googled something.
Yeah, what you got?
Are you going over the Twilight Zone, the movie?
We are not. It will come up to a small degree. I think one of these directors actually did do some work in the Twilight Zone, but what were you going to say about it?
The movie.
As a cursed movie, that'll be in an upcoming broadcast. We have lots of cursed movies to cover.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I was just like, I Googled some because I was trying to find one that you wouldn't know about.
Yeah, no, we just got, I've got a list of, I think, 25 movies that were equipment malfunctions, problems. Steven Spielberg refused to work in a tank in a movie set. So, the seas were unpredictable. The weather was unpredictable. The salt water was causing all kinds of problems to the equipment. Ultimately, at one point, the shark broke down 100 times. I keep hitting that. I'm sorry. The shark breaks down 100 times. And at one point, they had the shark brought in by a barge. The barge drops the shark, and it literally sunk to the bottom of the ocean. And they all thought, that's our career. That it's over. This movie's not going to get made. We're all out of jobs. We're going to have to, they thought that was the end of the movie. So
they got it back up, obviously, right?
That, or it's down at the bottom of the ocean, scaring the hell out of divers somewhere.
Yeah, I was going to say, can you imagine that? Like, you're a diver.
No. Go down on some shipwreck and come across the Jaws. No, mechanical Jaws.
Yeah, which they're off subject, but there is a lake somewhere that has a Jason.
Friday
13th. Yeah, at the bottom of the lake. And man, that would absolutely scare the crap out of me if I went down there.
I mean, my wetsuit would need changed for sure.
Or my brown pants.
Wow. Good thing that water was already brown, because
yeah.
All right, so that was that. They talked about Spielberg's refusal to work in a tank. Robert Shaw, who played Quint. I'll show you the cast here. So you got Quint is the guy on the far right. Quint was, I guess, quite a character. A little difficult to work with. He had some.
He was definitely a drunk on set.
Yes, and you didn't know when you walked up to him, he was either going to hug you or want to punch you in the face, kind of guy. You didn't know what you were going to get.
Which him and Richard Dreyfuss had a lot of feuds on set during that time. Which, from what I've learned about stuff about Richard Dreyfuss, is he was not the easiest person to work with either.
Right.
So the two of them together was just,
Yeah. I have to imagine that Richard Dreyfuss was the star of the movie in his mind.
Probably.
But really the character that sold that movie, in my opinion, was Quint. And maybe Brody all in all at the end of the day.
Yeah. Because had Close Encounters of the Third Kind come out yet, or was that
I'm not sure. Jaws? Mitchie, can you look up when Close Encounters of the Third Kind came out?
When Close Encounter?
Yeah.
Because Dreyfuss was the star of that movie. Does he go into Jaws thinking he's the top guy?
Right. So, I mean, you're going to have three, although the actor that played Brody, I don't feel like he had a lot of issues on the set from that standpoint. He seemed a little bit calmer, but I could see Dreyfuss and Robert Shaw getting into it.
Right.
You mean like Close Encounters, like
of the Third Kind?
Of the Third Kind, it came out in 1977.
No, it came
which
out
was
2 years
also
later.
a Spielberg movie too.
Yeah.
Okay.
I guess it came out 2 years later, but all right. So, there was a scene where he was talking to the townspeople, I think, and he was supposed to be drunk in the movie, and so he convinced Spielberg to let him go have a few drinks in order to match the character's energy. And then he came back like an hour later or whatever, and he was just like fall down drunk, and they had to reshoot the scene the next day. I guess he wasn't the easiest guy to work.
And the speech with the USS Indianapolis, whatever, he had drank so many times because they had taken that scene so many takes that he was drunk by the time they finally got a good take out of him.
I mean, one of the best scenes in the entire movie is him recounting that story. So for them to have pulled it off the way they did, so yeah, we're reconnected.
I mean, you should see these faces that we keep making though, because they're pretty.
I know.
All of them are pretty funny.
I will pull this down and edit out the parts and repost it as a video, just so that we can get through all of this. But I talked about the shark sinking the boat, the Orca. It sank while on set with cast and crew on board. The sound man John Carter was famous. The sound man John Carter was famously later quoted as yelling.
And they put like props from different movies at Universal. And I just remember going and seeing that because that was like my dad's favorite movie.
Yeah. Yes.
So how is Jaws cursed?
Because just the number of things that went wrong during the filming.
It's still...
cursed doesn't have to mean evil, or it just means that, like, some people
down on your luck, like you need a leprechaun and that type of deal.
I don't know about leprechauns, but I'm just saying. But yes, no. Okay. I mean, like you could be cursed.
When you say cursed, I think of paranormal.
Right. Not necessarily paranormal. But the boat, the Orca, that sank. That was this boat here. All right. So then even the main ship that carried all of the equipment sank. Then the movie went over budget and over schedule. The movie set from the standpoint of all the things that went wrong with the electrical issues, the mechanical issues, the boats sinking, the cast member issues, how far it went over budget, how long it took extra. Definitely a cursed movie set from that standpoint.
Right.
Do I think it was demonically possessed? No.
But do I think that they weren't cursed? I don't think they were cursed. I think they were... Sorry, I'm going to give my opinion. I'm going to give my 2 cents. I think they were just dumb because they didn't hire somebody knowing that saltwater damages equipment, and it doesn't matter what size you are, we all breathe air here. Like,
well, in that one case of that one situation where the oxygen ran out and the guy almost drowned, that was just stupidity. But somebody on the safety team should have caught that. But I imagine the safety team in the 70s is uniquely different than that of 2020.
Right. So was it cursed or just like really bad luck?
Yeah, I'm gonna say really bad luck.
This was X Factor. I give it an X.
Yeah,
it's not cursed.
I don't think stupid from a standpoint of saltwater. It wasn't that they didn't know that the saltwater was going to cause all those problems. He didn't care. He wanted a movie about a shark in the ocean to be filmed by a shark in the ocean, right? Like his perfectionism was so deep that when there were boats and other things in the background that they had to not film and wait for the background to be clear so that he could film it without any other. Like, you would expect to see a boat in the ocean, but not in Spielberg's mind. He was like, if there's a boat back there, we can't film. We have to wait for it to pass. So,
which is crazy because in a tank, you can just recreate that whole background and never have to worry about a boat coming
like
through
Titanic.
At all.
Right. I mean, I thought the Titanic was in the ocean in the movie, and it wasn't.
It was. But they spent $9 million, but they made $470 million.
Well, so yeah, they ended up going over budget by $5.5–6 million. And then the movie went out to be a huge blockbuster. I mean, who cares if it cost $10 or $15 or $20 million at that point? Because the movie made how much, Mitchie?
$470 million, and that's global. Like,
that's insane. Yeah.
So I think they did.
I'd like to know what that number is like in today's numbers. Yeah.
Yeah. Mitchie's typing, so we'll see if we get that answer. All right, so that covers Jaws. And next movie we're going to get into is one you're very familiar with, and then we're going to end on the one that I believe has the most evidence for being a cursed movie set. And so here is...
I would agree with you on that.
So here's what we're going to talk about next. It was another one of my favorite movies, although...
oh, shoot, that's like $3 billion.
Yeah, like $3 billion nowadays in today's money.
Wow.
I don't know if that's...
It says, well, $2.3 billion.
That's insane. Okay, so I think when he went on to do Coach, it kind of ruined my thoughts of Craig T. Nelson.
Yeah.
Because this movie is one of my also favorite OG scary movies, but here we go. We're going to talk about Poltergeist and all the craziness that happened on the set of Poltergeist, which again, that one came out June 4th, 1982, directed by was it Toby? That's how I pronounce it.
I forgot what the
Hooper.
The fake director's name was.
Right. So it was directed by Toby Hooper, although the executive producer, the producer on the set who really did the directing was Steven Spielberg. Steven Spielberg had his hand in everything. If you think about all the movies that he did back then, absolutely insane.
I mean, just the feel, the music, the beginning of how it all starts off. I mean, that's Spielberg to a T.
Yeah.
Let's just say he's not cursed.
Yeah, maybe Spielberg's the one that's cursed.
I know, he's two of the four on the list.
Yeah, and I think on my longer list, he's on there again. So
okay,
I think he might be in there.
Maybe you should do a thing on Spielberg.
That could be a topic if I can find enough. Absolutely. So there were on the set of Poltergeist, released June 4th, 1982. I think I said that. There were many explained occurrences that happened, and everything from unexplained moving objects on the set, both on and off camera. They talked about, set pieces would be in certain places, and then they'd leave and come back, and they'd be in different places, or they'd be slightly moved. And so there were all kinds of things like that.
That's how I feel when I found my keys in the freezer.
Well, your keys being found in the freezer was probably a whole different. But yes, our house isn't cursed. There were electrical malfunctions where the lights would flicker and then turn off and on. regularly. Equipment would stop working for no known reason. There was all kinds of changes in the weather, unexpected, like sudden storms would break out. There would be, lightning and wind and rain and all kinds of craziness that would just unleash for no reason. Animals that were on set that would react very strangely to certain areas of the set. For example, the dog would face into a corner, kind of like our dog was living. She will face in a corner and just growl and bark at seemingly nothing.
Oh my God, no.
Yeah, that's what his dog does, though.
Yeah, my dog does do that, but
stares at the wall.
She doesn't bark; she just stares for hours
and looks back, and then follows.
It's even creepier, I think.
Right,
and follows something.
Yeah, her head moves. It's not just constant. She'll track.
Like she's looking at something.
Maybe it's a bug.
It probably is a bug or a squirrel in the wall.
In the dead of winter, too?
Yes, especially in the dead of winter.
Okay.
So that kind of covers some of the weird, unexplained occurrences on set. Do you have anything you want to add there? Anyone?
That's all you got?
No. Oh. No, go ahead, Brandon.
Before we get into the other stuff, I don't know if you were going to talk about this, Nana, but it was Spielberg, instead of spending a little bit more money, like you said, he's a perfectionist, which I don't understand this part of it, but he decided to use real skeletons instead of just buying, I forgot what the material was back in the day, but instead of just buying the fake skeletons, he decided to save money and use real skeletons, which is, they think that's where the curse came from.
So my question is, the reports are that he did it to save money. My thought is he was such a perfectionist that maybe he did it because that was going to be the realest thing. A real skeleton can't look fake.
That's true. Yeah, that is true.
So I don't know, but that is between that and the set was supposedly built on a Native American burial ground. Those two things combined. Now, I know that was the plot of the movie, but I don't know if
you moved the bodies.
Yeah, I don't know if the set was truly built on an Indian burial ground.
I don't know. I didn't see anything about that one.
But that led many to believe that that's where the curse came from, was the use of the real skeletons and the overall theme of the movie. But yeah, I have that on here. And in that scene, when JoBeth Williams, who was the mom, and I have to go through these slides because I'm going to be too far in. I don't know. I'll find it. I don't think I even have one of JoBeth Williams, so we'll come back to that. But JoBeth Williams, who was the mother in the film, she was the one that fell into the pool where the skeletons came up. Mm-hmm. And I guess in that scene, she nearly drowned. That was one incident on set that happened that led me to think it was cursed.
Which I didn't know that one, and you're the one who told me that one, and I had done the video on this.
Well, imagine. I mean, I would probably drown out of fear of a real skeletons popping up all around me in the pool. In that pool, I would genuinely be afraid, even if I was filming a movie.
Right.
It's just creepy on every level. Malfunctioning special effects. There was an explosion that caused a fire on the set. I think it was with a camera. Suddenly exploded and burst into flames and caused a fire on the set. And then Oliver Robbins, who was that last picture I showed, he was the brother, or he was the middle child, injured his eye when this clown that's behind him in this picture here, it malfunctioned, and while it was attacking him, and it somehow it malfunctioned when he was fighting to get it off of him, he injured his eye. And so there was an injury from that standpoint, and then multiple illnesses among the cast and crew. But that's not even the scary part of it. That's all compelling evidence of this being cursed, right?
Right.
But what is really the story is there were multiple deaths also linked to this movie. And specifically 4 cast members that we'll talk about. And the first one is 2. He was the evil preacher Cain, and he died in Poltergeist 2. He ended up dying from stomach cancer. But nevertheless, he was death reported as a result of after this movie had been produced. Do you want to talk about Will Sampson?
Oh yeah, Will Sampson was a Native American actor that was on set, and he had actually went into the set after all the filming was done and performed his own little seance and performed the exorcism to kind of like get rid of all the bad spirits on set. And they said afterwards that it actually felt a lot better on set after he had done that. Now I did not write it down in my notes, but I know that later on Will Sampson ended up passing away.
Yes.
Shortly, was it after the second film?
Yes, because I think that this picture here was from the second one.
Yes.
I'm not entirely sure, but I think that that's where that picture comes from. But yes, he was in the second one. He passed away after the second movie. He had been fighting some illnesses. He actually died on the operating table. He was having a lung transplant.
Yes.
Yeah.
It was just a routine. No. He needed to have a lung and kidney transplant, I believe.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
a routine lung transplant.
Yeah. And they knew it was an extreme risk, but they took it anyway, and he died on the operating table.
Yeah.
So.
Yep. He needed it. I think he had to have it, and when he got it, it unfortunately didn't work out. But I think the most disturbing of the reported deaths from the movie was Dominique Dunne, who was the older sister. This is her here. She was the oldest sister of the group. You want to talk about that one?
Yeah, Dominique Dunne, she had just broke up with her boyfriend, John Sweeney. And Sweeney had come over to talk to her and try to get back with her and try to rekindle everything. She had no desire to get back with Sweeney and had actually gotten into an argument, and he actually strangled her and killed her and then left her in her driveway, and then he fled. Later on, they did arrest him. He was charged with the murder of Dominique Dunne. And this is the crazy part. He was sentenced to 6 years in prison.
6.
But he got out after 3.5 years on good behavior, which is crazy to me that you could kill somebody and get 3.5 years. And that just blows my mind.
Absolutely disturbing. He went over there to try, and very odd that this is happening in the midst of this topic. Yeah, see, we lost Brandon.
You know what?
What's that?
I wonder if Spielberg and Stephen King are best.
I don't believe so.
Well, I'm just going to say this, that I feel like, I said something about like Spielberg or whatever. Like, he's probably the one that's on it or whatever. Stephen King might be the one that is.
Well, we definitely have some movies on the list of Stephen King as well, because he definitely
I know, I already got one.
But he definitely had some first movie sets.
Yes.
But Dominique Dunne, I can't imagine explaining that to the family members and him serving 3.5 years. That just being okay. No. And then and then obviously the star of the movie, Carol Ann, who was Heather O'Rourke. She died at the age of 12, and she died. Let's see, picture of her. There we go. She died of a very treatable, curable. I mean, it was a bowel obstruction. That's all it was. They could have gone in, done any number of things. It was misdiagnosed so many times that eventually she fell ill, and it was too late, and she passed away. And she was only 12 years old. It's horrifyingly sad, especially for someone as talented as she was at that age. We've lost your audio, Brandon. Can you hear us?
Yeah, sorry, I muted my mic. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah, if you see pictures of her later on, like you can tell right before she's about to pass away, she looks incredibly ill.
Yeah.
Like she looks bad.
She was very gaunt.
I feel bad.
Had no weight to her. She was like a walking skeleton. It was really sad.
Yeah.
Really, really sad. Let me switch over to this camera since I didn't. Oh, no. Hi, how are you, Brandon? That's this camera I'm looking for. All right, so that is the evidence in the case for the Poltergeist, which was just a
Well,
fantastic movie.
the other one too that happened
Okay,
is
yes.
Richard Lawson. He was he was in a few small scenes, but his plane had crashed in I forgot what bay it was, but 27 members aboard his plane died in the crash. He somehow survived. Richard Lawson.
Oh, how did I miss that one? I totally forgot about that. Yes.
Yeah, and then there's another guy. I think he played. I think his name in the movie was maybe Pugsley. I forgot what it was, but his real name was Lou Perryman. He had came home. This was, I think, in 2009. He came home and walked inside of his house. There was an escaped convict that had escaped and had broken into his house and killed him with an axe. Which I think probably getting killed with an axe is probably one of the scariest things.
I can't
An
fathom
axe or a
anything worse.
chainsaw. I
Yeah,
think. Man,
I can't fathom much worse than that. No, yes.
no.
I forgot about that. The cameraman, he was a cameraman.
Yeah.
That survived the plane crash, but 27 people on board were all killed. I can't imagine surviving a plane crash in the
I would go buy a lottery ticket immediately.
yeah. But the axe murder, that one I missed completely, and that's absolutely traumatic and terrifying. I can't think of a worse way to be attacked and killed. It brings back memories of Amityville Horror, the kind of things, or The Shining, or even the real life scenarios like the Villisca Axe Murder House, things like that. Absolutely terrifying to think of.
Lizzie Borden.
Lizzie Borden, exactly. Yes, they did. But you're not anywhere near Mike, so you can't. You're going to have to go sit down if you want to contribute. So I love this picture. This is actually a picture that is often autographed by this actor. I forget his name, Oliver Robbins. I might have that autograph actually if I'm thinking about it. But
did you get it from like one of those boxes? Zombie.
Yeah, Zombie box or something.
I
actually think we got it from a friend, maybe Randy.
Okay.
I think he might have sent it.
Something kind of cool about that scene with him in the bedroom and the tree coming through and grabbing him is that scene was shot backwards. So the tree started off inside, and then they shot in. What you saw was in reverse.
Interesting. I think the thing that bothered me most about that whole movie was I'm not necessarily a germaphobe, but I don't like sticky things or slimy things or anything else. And they just spent 90% of that movie covered in pink slime, and it was disgusting.
That's not a germaphobe.
No, so I said I'm not a germaphobe. I'm whatever that would be. I don't like the. I mean, in the end, when they're all holding each other covered in pink slime, I'm like, that's disgusting.
Right.
Okay, so anything else we want to add to the Poltergeist before we move on to the next?
100%. I think that one is a cursed movie.
I agree. Midge, would you agree the Poltergeist was a cursed movie set?
Yes, absolutely, 100%.
Yeah, I'm with you. Okay, so then we're going to get into the finale, the fourth and final movie in this, and
that's weird that you think of cursed in that manner, though.
What?
In a way of like curse could be like bad luck. I mean, when I think of curse, I pretty much just think that like
I mean,
completely
if you look up the definition of cursed, it doesn't have to be a spiritual thing. So it is a streak of bad luck.
I think curse is like you're just like bad luck is happening in that area, or it's like paranormal, something else.
Right.
Got his hands in it.
Is all. But you just explained both of them, bad luck and spiritual possession type things. And the bad luck is what I think the cursed category of Jaws falls. It was just a string of unfortunate events that happened over and over and over, which would lead some people to say, rather than using many words and saying it was caused by a streak of bad luck, they just say it was cursed. It was cursed by a string of bad luck. not necessarily, anyway, we've covered that. So, but I agree with what you're saying. I mean, I think of Cursed the same way you do, but I think as we get into this more and we talk about a number of other movies, there's going to be a lot of movies that are cursed in the way of a series of misfortunate events, rather than it being some sort of, I mean, The Wizard of Oz is on the list.
Mm.
Let me look here. I got the list right in front of me. So from cursed movies,
I think the most intriguing you had on there, you had Twilight, which I'm curious to hear that
yes,
one.
Twilight, Superman, the original 1978. Then you
That
had
was bad.
Rosemary's Baby, The Twilight Zone, Passion of the Christ, Amityville Horror would have been a good one, or will be a good one. Apocalypse Now, Rebel Without a Cause, James Dean, Nosferatu, which was the original Dracula. So there's a lot to cover in this cursed
The
movie
Crow.
category. The Crow. So not all of them will be necessarily, some of them will just be a series of dramatic events that many believe it. That's why they cursed. But we're going to get into the last one, which I think heavily weighs into the cursed, as you think of it, Mitchie, with this like dark forces working against the production and the release of this film.
Definitely.
This one is lengthy. It was released on June 6th. June 6th, 1976. So it came out when I was a wee little lad. For you two youngins here with me, we're not.
I was -8.
Yes, we're not even born yet.
What year did you say?
1976, Mitchie.
I wasn't even.
Yeah, you weren't even thought about at the moment.
My parents weren't even married yet.
This movie was directed by Richard Donner, and who also directed Superman, The Goonies, Lethal Weapon 1 and 2, Scrooged, Maverick, some absolutely fantastic movies, which I find interesting because Superman is also on the list of cursed movies. So he has a couple on this list.
Maybe some of them with Donner and Spielberg.
Yeah, and Mitchie brought up, I imagine Stephen King's going to be in that list to some degree, maybe. If anybody was going to be cursed, he would.
Sorry not to backtrack, but that is something about the Poltergeist is Stephen King was actually approached to write the script for that, but after a lengthy amount of time, just him and Spielberg just weren't on the same page. So
because as great as Stephen King is, and I've read almost everything he's ever put out. I love Stephen King. As great as he is not. I mean, he and Spielberg are polar opposites. Like,
totally different.
Spielberg's storyline is going to check out beginning to end, and you're going to have a hard time. Well, except maybe he did Indiana Jones, right? That's about the only one that doesn't check out from beginning to end. But great movie nevertheless. But so Stephen King was a guy that would write a book that was terrifyingly horrific, like the best book you've ever read, and it'd be a book this thick. Stephen King, It, for example, and you'd get to the end, and it's a spoiler alert, giant spider.
Right.
Like, okay, wait a minute. You had me up until the end. Like, what just happened? His Dark Tower series, best series ever written until the final books, and then it just was a total nightmare. Horrible. So Tats, welcome in. So we're gonna get into The Omen. This is not The Omen. This is The Omen. Gregory Peck, Lee Remick, absolutely fantastic movie. Fantastic movie that was terrifying in its own right. Now, it came after The Exorcist, and it fed off of Rosemary's Baby and The Exorcist. It was an idea that was brought to Richard Donner, and then ultimately picked up by him. Or actually, it was Harvey Bernhard was the producer. It was pitched to him. He picked it up and ran with it. But it came off the heels of Rosemary's Baby and The Exorcist, and they wanted to kind of explore that. Rosemary's Baby was kind of the the devil's baby, and then Reagan was possessed by the demonic, by a demon. And this movie wanted to really scratch the surface of the Antichrist, right? And so they have this child who is they lost the main characters lost their baby, and they were given this child that they named Damien appropriately, and this child ultimately is the Antichrist. So they played off of that. It came out again June 6, 1976, and Robert Munger, who was an ad executive, he was the guy who actually came up with the idea for the film. And he thought it was a great idea. He went around and pitched it to a number of producers and got rejected multiple times. But then Harvey Bernhard picked up on it and was like, look, Rosemary's Baby and The Exorcist made a ton of money at the box office. They're wildly successful. Let's keep, exploring that genre of horror, and let's do this. However, like within months of Robert Munger pitching this idea and Harvey Bernhard picking it up, Robert Munger was like, wait a minute, I was wrong. Don't make this movie. He had a complete and utter change of heart. Did not want to do it. He warned of pain and suffering if the movie was to be made, and pain and suffering to cast and crew. And he was famously said, if the devil's greatest single weapon is to be invisible, and if you're going to, or it is, all right, let me backtrack here for 1 second. He famously said, if the devil's greatest single weapon is to be invisible, and if you're going to do something to take away his invisibility to millions of people, he's not going to want that to happen. He warned them, do not make this movie. And then they, Harvey's like, duly noted. Overruled.
And he began wearing a cross around his neck the rest of the time.
Yeah. So then after a couple of scenes in the movie, I think it kind of spooked him, and he ended up wearing a cross around his neck. Yeah, absolutely. Just prior, so they signed on Gregory Peck as the lead role, who was phenomenal in this movie. Son ended his own life, and Gregory Peck, rather than stepping out of the movie and not doing it, he decided to channel all of that negative energy and emotion, all that sadness, all that heartache that he had. He channeled it into this role. I think Gregory Peck is an incredible actor and would have been great regardless, but it's heartbreaking that he had to deal with that. But that's right. What he credits some of his, how he channeled this character. Just really sad. John Richardson was a special effects person on the set. This is disturbing. And Mitchie, I don't know if you know this one.
This is the craziest one, I think.
Yeah. Mitchie, I don't know if you know this one or not. So this is pretty wild. So he was special effects. The movie had been made, and he had gone on to work on the next project. And while filming that project, he was in a car with some other people. He was driving down the road, and he was suddenly involved in a head-on collision. A car came around the corner, got into their lane, head-on collision. It knocked him out, and when he woke up, the first thing he saw was a road sign that said Omen, which was the next town, and it was 66.6 miles away. And then the next thing he saw when he turned his head to check on his passengers was the decapitated passenger that was in his vehicle. So the passenger in his vehicle, the front seat, was decapitated by a wheel that had come off the vehicle that crashed into him and decapitated that person. So he wakes up, sees Omen 66.6 miles, and then that horrifying scene.
Nope.
You can imagine.
Nope.
So was the passenger, was that not his wife?
It wasn't his wife. It was somebody that was working on that next set as well. I could be wrong. You might have to fact check on that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was either somebody working on the film or think it was somebody working on the film. He had actually multiple passengers, but she was the one in the front.
Okay.
So one of the scenes in that movie, and I don't know how long it's been since anybody's seen this movie, but one of the scenes, the baboons all freak out and attack the car. And the way that they made that scene was they put an animal trainer in the back seat with a live baboon that could literally rip your head off. A live baboon in the back seat, and the trainer's holding it. And that baboon caused the reaction by all the baboons outside of the car to come and attack the car. And so that scene was fantastic in the movie.
That poor monkey.
The actress that played the mother was terrified shooting that scene and didn't like it, but nevertheless, they got the shot. Turned out to be a great shot for the movie. That animal trainer, just a very quick time after that incident, was mauled by a tiger and killed. And so that was, again, not just shortly after filming that scene, he was then attacked. And I mean, I want to say it was like 2 days, but it was recently after that. I could be wrong, but again, like I said, fact check.
Elizabeth Moore. It says on IMDb that she was riding in the car with her boyfriend, John Richardson.
Okay. I'd be curious whether she was working on it. I could have swore I read that she was working on that.
Yeah, she was working on the movie set A Bridge Too Far, I think is what.
And he was too. That's right.
Yeah.
A Bridge Too Far.
Which is crazy too, because A Bridge Too Far is something else you're going to talk about, is another movie.
Yes. A Bridge Too Far has a number of incidents where characters from this movie went on and played in that movie and had incidents. But yes, that will come up here in just a second. You're right. So that was that. One of the weirdest things in this whole deal was the lightning strikes. They talk about a number of different lightning strikes. One we'll even save till later, but I had pictures in here. I just don't know what they were. That's Gregory Peck right there. You guys probably, everybody probably knows him at this point. That first one was Harvey Bernhard, and then that was John Richardson, I believe. Third one. Yeah. No, that wasn't him. I can't remember who this is, but regardless, I got them all out of order and messed up. So, all right. So the lightning strikes was a big thing. So there were 3 primary lightning strikes, actually 4. There was a 5th one, but we'll get into that. Actually, I think that happened in The Exorcist, which I didn't talk about, which I'll bring back up. So the 4 lightning strikes that we're talking about here are Gregory Peck was in an airplane flying over the Atlantic Ocean. The plane was struck by lightning, which blew an engine, and they had to emergency land when they got over. Almost crashed into the Atlantic Ocean until they were aboard, but they were able to emergency land, and everybody was safe. Producer Mace Neufeld was then later on another plane flying over the Atlantic Ocean, struck by lightning, blew an engine, had to make an emergency land. That's crazy that it would happen twice. David Seltzer, who was a screenwriter, he was on a plane. Guess where he was? Over the Atlantic Ocean. Guess what happened? Lightning struck the plane, blew an engine, and they had to emergency land. 3 times during the production of this movie. I mean, I can't imagine being in a plane being struck by lightning. That'd be terrifying.
Yeah.
For it to happen 3 times within the production of one movie, within cast and crew of that movie.
Yeah, I think I'm taking a boat.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll swim. I don't know. And then Harvey Bernhard, the producer, was nearly struck by lightning when he was standing in a field in Rome. So, I mean, the lightning strikes happen multiple times. And another scary thing that happened in the movie The Exorcist was when that film was released, the movie theater was in between 2 cathedrals, and the cross on top of one of the cathedrals was struck by lightning. It caused a fire, and they had to evacuate the actual cinema that the movie was playing. That was one of the first showings of the movie The Exorcist, and it had to be evacuated after lightning struck a cathedral. That's crazy. And I don't know about you guys, but I'm terrified of lightning in that sense. Like, it's beautiful to look at. but I need it to be far away,
Really?
Yeah.
right? I love a good thunderstorm, but I'm going to need that to be
I'd go outside with an
ways.
umbrella.
So, are you more scared of the lightning or the thunder?
I like the thunder. I like the thunder when it hits hard and you can feel it in your chest. Thunder's not going to kill me. Lightning to the head is
Right.
going to kill me.
True.
Right? So I'm not scared of the thunder. It's the
I'm not
lightning.
scared of the lightning.
I don't want to say I'm not. Yeah, I get what you're saying, Mitchie. I'm not scared of lightning either, but I wouldn't want to be standing in a field with lightning struck next to me. I would run. I mean, it would scare
Listen,
me.
I don't know if this is true story or not, but I swear my dad told me a story one time about him getting struck by lightning. And I feel
don't.
like you'd have to get struck by lightning to tell me the story that he told me.
I feel like you can survive being struck by lightning.
You
but
can.
I can't imagine what that would do to you.
But yeah, the guy from the movie Great Outdoors, he was struck 66 times. So.
Yes. Yeah, that is right. What a great movie.
I like that movie.
By the
It's
way,
such a great movie.
Yeah, for anybody watching, I think Brandon and I share one of the fondest, greatest actors of all time. I don't know, actor, whatever, just human being on the planet. John Candy, R.I.P. John Candy. Love that. So yeah,
He's
I
the
grew
greatest,
up-
man.
I grew up on that movie. I loved that movie when I was a kid.
he made very few, if any, bad movies.
Did you ever
So,
see that?
Right.
I know it was
I don't
past.
know of any bad movies that I'm like, I don't watch that one when it comes on.
Yeah, I mean, Planes, Trains, and Automobiles is on the list every holiday season. I don't know how
Yep.
we got to John Candy other than lightning strikes.
And I went.
Well, John Candy's a part of a curse. Just so you need to add that to your list.
Was it from just in general or from that specific movie?
It was from a movie where a lot of people, famous actors, that are attached to the movie script took.
Oh, the curse of
Where the first one to read for it was John Belushi.
That's right.
And then
Yeah.
Sam Kinison read for it, which was
Chris
killed in a
Farley.
car wreck.
Okay.
Then Chris Farley.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, John
Bergman.
Candy, then Chris Farley. Phil Hartman also read the script as being a part of the movie, which
That's
is also
right.
killed by his wife. And so
Now
there's a lot to that movie.
And you did a video on that. I remember.
did, yes,
That's the only reason I even know about that. And
Yeah.
so until we do that, everybody who's watching this before, now, or after, be sure to go check that out on B for Brandon.
Look.
And when I search your channel name, B for Brandon, right? Or it's not B is for Brandon.
No, it's B for Brandon.
B for Brandon.
You know what kills me sometimes is I'll have it typed in and I'll even go to like channel, the exact name, and like I'm like the 10th or 12th one down. I'm like, no, I put it. There's no other channel called B for Brandon.
Yeah.
I don't understand. I'm like the 10th or 12th one down, but I am.
When I search it, you're the first one, you're the top one,
Yeah.
but maybe that's because I'm subscribed. So if
Yeah,
you guys
maybe.
want to be able to easily find it, be sure to subscribe. Definitely.
Yeah.
You'll see
appreciate
that. So, now we're only partial way through The Omen here. The next thing is that there's that scene where they're at the cemetery and they are attacked by the Rottweilers. Forget all the training they had, and they legit attack the stuntman. Not only do they, I mean, he's wearing protective clothing, but they bite all the way through the protective clothing. And they nearly, one of them took a bite in the direction of his neck, which he missed, I think, fortunately. And then the stuntman was able to get away and be okay. But like, even at the yells and screams of the handler, like, those dogs just didn't stop. And these are trained, dogs that do this all the time. So it was very odd that happened as well. Crazy stuff. They filmed this over in Rome, over in Ireland, and some of those areas. And the IRA was prominent at that time. There were a lot of things going on. So Mace Neufeld, who was a producer, he was staying in a hotel with his wife. They left. They were somewhere else. And before they came back to the hotel, the IRA blew that hotel up. And they just narrowly escaped death from that. And then after the movie was done and wrapped up, Gregory Peck and Mace Neufeld and a number of other producers and people that worked on the crew were going to go out for dinner, and they left with this specific place in mind that they were going to go to dinner at. And before they got there, the restaurant had been blown up by the as well.
That's insane.
Crazy.
I'm getting out of the country but how are you leaving? Are you leaving on a plane?
So that's the thing. If you think of like Mace Neufeld, his plane was struck by lightning. He avoided a bomb at his hotel. He avoided a bomb at the restaurant he was attending. Like if I'm Mace Neufeld, I might retire. I might just go.
I mean, he's like a walking Final Destination movie by himself.
I would not get a log cabin in the mountains because that's high up and you're going to get struck by lightning.
Yeah.
I'd go below sea level somewhere.
Get a plane, nothing.
Yeah, no planes, none of that stuff. It's going to happen again. So that craziness happened before the second production. This is a bizarre story. Before the second production, the crew was going to go on a scouting mission. And so they rented this plane, and they were going to board this plane and then take off and go scout certain areas for the movie that they're going to, or get overhead shots of various. They had rented the plane to do that. Well, right before they were going to take off or board the plane, a Chinese businessman came in and bought the plane out from under, just bought it outright. So now they don't have a plane. But meanwhile, this businessman and all of his colleagues that boarded the plane, I think there was 24 or 25 something on board. I don't know if that's true. Maybe
Didn't see. I mean, it was on
half
board.
of that. But that plane then loads with all the people, and it takes off from the runway. And right after taking off from the runway, it hits a flock of birds, which blows up the engine, and they crash, and it killed everyone on board. So had they boarded the plane, it could have happened to them. The plane was bought out from under them, and then the next buyer immediately took off and crashed and killed everyone. That's bizarre. And then here we're going to talk.
Is they went through a fence and then hit a car, killing other people.
Yes.
Which is crazy.
And maybe that's where that big number comes from, because I don't think it was a big enough plane to have that many people on board. I think it was the people on the plane plus hitting the car and killing the people in the car. Yeah. That's how many fatalities there were. So then Alf Joint, this is where A Bridge Too Far is going to come into play. Alf Joint was a stuntman who was in that movie, in the movie The Omen. And so in that next movie, I believe he was on a bridge too far. But the scene called for him to be thrown off of it or ejected off of the top of this either building or bridge or whatever. And obviously he's a stuntman, so he lands on a crash pad. So as he's preparing for that scene, completely leaps out, overshoots the crash pad, lands directly on the ground, causing multiple internal injuries, broken bones, all kinds of things. He's severely injured, nearly dies, but he adamantly insisted to this day that he felt somebody push him off of that. So he was pushed, and that's why he missed the crash pad. But there was nobody else up there that could have done it, and so many believe that was the lasting curse of The Omen that carried over into the next film. Because a lot of this came from people followed them throughout their careers.
Which is crazy because, a stuntman overly prepares for a stunt. And he's probably done that stunt hundreds of times. For him to just watch that one time, it's kind of weird.
Yeah. And a stuntman isn't just, like you just said. I mean, they're not. He's as much responsible for the placement of that crash pad. He's not going to just be like, well, whatever, you just tell me when to jump and I'm going to jump. I don't care where you put the crash pad. So he's going to have he knows what he's doing. So for that to even happen, absolutely is a little bit wild. And then last thing I have here is the remake was plagued by sudden death, instrument malfunction, and fire as well. I don't know if you had anything else that you researched and found.
No, as you were going through them, I was checking them off my list of what I had found.
And so I think that from the original concept to not Mace Newfeld's, but Harvey Bernhard's, insistence upon wearing the cross around his neck, from the deaths that are associated with it, from the accidents that plagued it, and all of the things, the lightning strikes, the bombings, everything else that happened in this movie set. It's gonna be hard pressed to find something that has has
I agree.
more
Yeah, I agree.
craziness around it. Mitch, you got any insight on your thoughts about that one? No, I just kind of talked the whole.
I thought that one was good. That one was
Yeah. So overall, from a cursed movie standpoint, my ranking, I think, in order would have been Jaws to Poltergeist to The Exorcist to The Omen, and I'm really anxious to see what's out there that might be more cursed. So
Yeah,
you.
you're right. It's gonna be hard to top The Omen.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah, The Omen's that one.
Yeah. So Mitchie, what do you think?
I can't even put Jaws in that category. I really can't, because I can, if I can justify, maybe you should have thought about putting that equipment in salt water before you did it, or maybe you should have consulted with a health professional if you really had questions about if he needed a different air tank. Like, you know what I mean? Like, nowadays, that was 50 years ago. So in my brain, I do not think Jaws was cursed at all. So I take it off the list altogether.
But the only thing
the only
thing I'm going to say about that is you're putting the assumption on they didn't know better, and my thought is they did know better. They just did it for the sake of getting the shot. They needed somebody smaller in stature, and then they had to have matching tanks in order to make these sharks look even larger. And so that's the way they chose to do it. They threw safety and caution to the wind in order to get the shot. They knew salt water was going to wreak havoc on the equipment, maybe not to the degree that it ended up doing, but I think they knew. So I would say you're right. Maybe it doesn't go in the cursed category because they knew and they chose to do it anyway.
Yeah.
But that it was a series of misfortunate.
Well, and my other question is, like, I looked up when we started talking about all this. I was Googling a couple things, but I wanted to see, like, did you just research the ones in the United States, not the ones outside the United States too? Yes, because I've got like a list of them.
Okay. So
I didn't know if you did or not.
The movie list that I came up with was literally like a ChatGPT list 25 first movie sets.
Yeah.
And these are the names that it gave me.
Yeah.
And
well, that's what I did too. But
and then I did some basic research to figure out if they can genuinely be considered cursed, and I stopped at that. But I think I don't think I typed in American movies. But maybe I did. I don't know. But no, I know there's tons of foreign, and you're right. Yeah. There may be some foreign films out there that are equally as bad or whatever. So you got more on your list there?
Yeah, but that one thing that you guys were talking about with all the, like, John Candy and Chris Farley and everybody, the curse of it, whatever. I'm not going to say it because I'll screw it up. But that was on there. I don't know why. I don't know why that would come up in the thing, but one of the Grudge movies and Tale of Two Sisters, and I'm Ring You and Noro.
Ring You is the Japanese version of. It'd be very simple, easy for me to say The Ring, but I think it was maybe The Grudge.
Well, no, there was Jew on The Grudge, and then there was Ring You. There's two different ones that were on here.
I know, but I'm saying that Ring You was the Japanese version, was the original movie, and then there was an American movie made based on that movie, which was called either, I don't remember if that one was The Ring or that one was, but it was one of those. Ringu just came first, and it was a Japanese film, and then we remade it in English.
Well, yeah, I know
Yeah, The
that.
Ring and The Grudge were both like remakes of.
Yeah.
Well, they did a
Great.
great job because those things scared the crap
Yeah.
out of me when I was in high school and they came out. They
Japanese
scared the
horror
crap out
films
of
are
me.
fantastic. French horror films are probably some of the most disturbing.
I just
Um,
Googled it and it gave me a couple of those, but I wasn't for sure if we were just going off the ones from the U.S. or.
there's a movie titled Martyrs out of
I'm
that's a
not
French
talking. I'm
movie.
not talking about that.
And there was a so Spirit Halloween Collector says Ju-on was the Grudge and Ringu was the Ring. Okay. There's a movie called Martyrs, and that was a French movie, and it was subtitled. They remade it in English, like in 2012, I think. And it's not good at all. But
I haven't seen that one.
But the French version was utterly graphic and disturbing for the first half of the movie. And when that whole thing plays out and you get to the halfway point of the movie, you think the movie's over. Like, it puts a final cap on it, and you think, oh my God, that was the most disturbing, horrifying, graphic thing I've ever seen. And then it only gets, but like in the best way possible. I mean, it's graphic and it's disturbing, and there's things that are going on that are just too much for the human mind to comprehend.
Right.
But it leads to an absolutely, from a horror fan standpoint, an absolute must-watch. Fantastic.
I think to this day, probably the goriest movie I've ever seen was probably Terrifier 2.
Ooh, God.
Have you seen that?
Oh, the Terrifier and Terrifier 2. Art the Clown are my favorite.
Which I can't wait for the third one to come out.
Oh, God. Graphic for the sake of being graphic.
It was just like, how worse can we make it?
Yes.
And then they take it to like a level 20.
Right. So the first one, the first one has the infamous scene of him sawing
The girl in
the
half.
person in half. And you think that's disturbing. Well, then, yeah. All right. I think we're back. I'm sorry about that.
Okay.
So Martyrs wasn't graphic for the sake of being graphic. Martyrs was a complete mind freak. Like, it was an absolute, this was kind of a religious cult, but they were trying to accomplish this certain goal and get the answer to what happens after you die. So they have to bring someone to the brink of death to see what happens. Anyway, they have to reach ultimate martyrdom, and so that becomes the graphic nature of this movie. But it's disturbing on all kinds of levels, and will leave you thinking about it for a long time after you watch it. Yeah.
So I've not seen it in a very long time. Isn't that kind of the premise of Flatliners?
A little bit, yes.
Okay.
Yes, absolutely.
But not as.
Oh, you're back.
Oh.
Sorry, let me get you on camera.
Yeah, but not as stay in your mind for the rest of your life and have that image.
Yeah, I need you. If you like, obviously you like scary movies. You need to watch Martyrs.
Martyrs. Okay, I'm gonna write it down.
Martyrs.
I mean, you need to be prepared.
But do not watch the English version. I think came out in 2012. This is before that.
I think it's like
I think it's subtitled.
What's the country that basically they banned this movie in like every country?
Oh, it's a very much banned.
But you can search it and find it. It's just gonna be like the 2008 one. I think I think
you can watch it free on Amazon Prime.
Yeah, you can. It's just like it's banned though in like every country, even the country that it was made in.
Yeah, it's disturbing, but it's awesome. I love it. Anyway, I don't know if that movie said it's cursed or not. We just got off topic and went down the rabbit hole.
We got way off topic.
Sorry, I'm really good at doing that.
Yeah, I know. Anytime we bring Mitch along, we know we're going to go off topic. That's perfect.
But But for real though, with Stephen King, I'm going back to it. I'm sorry. I'm gonna because I get obsessed on things.
Yep.
But did you know like the Stanley Hotel wasn't even like haunted? Like I don't know, that I could find until he went there and started having those weird dreams, or unless it just wasn't talked about as often back then. And then now everybody wants to stay in that room.
So the Overlook Hotel,
Yeah,
also known as
whatever.
Okay, so Stephen King stays in the Stanley Hotel. He has the idea for the movie, for the book. He writes the book, and then the hotel plays off the idea that the hotel's haunted and makes it a cultural icon and place people want to pay absorbent amount of money to stay in, thinking it's haunted. I mean, you're right. I don't think that hotel was haunted prior to that happening.
Now, didn't he write the whole script in like 5 minutes while he was out in the balcony smoking a cigarette?
Yeah, he was very, very quick to write the whole thing, and it was a fantastic book.
Yeah.
The movie, an absolute and utter classic. Having said that, if you read the book, that movie was the Jack Nicholson version movie was, I mean, as far as it relates to the book, it was uniquely different. It wasn't exactly the same. They redid that movie using Steven Weber later, and I thought that movie, from how it depicts what happened in the book, was more spot on, and I thought the movie was fantastic. But obviously, one beats Jack.
And Stanley Kubrick.
Stanley Kubrick, fake the moon landing and all that stuff.
You're right.
And we're full circle.
and like basically drove Shelley Duvall absolutely insane. Like, she's not well today.
Yeah.
Like, she is not right.
That's a horrible story to read and to think about, the things that they put her through so that she could have that realistic reaction to everything that was going on. Now, my sister sent me a link to a collectible toy or something. It wasn't a toy, obviously, but it's a collectible, packaged, and it is Shelley Duvall's cigarette in that movie where the ash is like this long. And it's just like a movie prop. It's just got a really long ash. I remember watching that movie as a kid, like having massive anxiety of like, where are you gonna that you got to ash that cigarette? This anyway.
Yeah.
But yes, more cursed movie sets coming up. We're gonna have all kinds to talk about. I do want to plug real quick that next week we are going to go down the rabbit hole. You guys all voted for it. Anybody that went into the community tab and they voted for Area 51. So we're going to talk about Roswell and the crash and the cover-up or not cover-up, whatever you want to say, the conspiracies around that, and Area 51 in general. And then 2 weeks from today, we're going to get into the real story and the real truth behind the Knights Templar. And we're going to talk about all things about who they were, what they were really about, the treasures that they found, the monetary funds that they were able to raise, the treasure essentially, and by what means, and then what happened in the end, how they were torn apart, and then they shipped their treasure all around and buried it somewhere. And then that will obviously lead into the second part, which will be the Curse of Oak Island, because we're going to follow that treasure from the Knights Templar all the way across to Nova Scotia, where it may have been buried on Oak Island.
Dude, I'm like 12 seasons in on that show.
It's just,
I know they're not going to find anything, but I can't stop.
I
it's
don't know
hard.
how anybody still watches it.
Because I watched it for years.
I do. I feel like it's my third job.
Yep.
And you're just sitting there and you're waiting, and then you're Googling, has anybody found anything on Oak Island? Like,
all those shows are fascinating to me. The only frustrating part is nobody ever finds it. I watched a treasure hunter find a sunken ship, or was trying to, and he never did. I watched the Blind Frog Ranch where they're searching.
Tell them to look at that one up.
The Skinwalker Ranch, where it started at times, was about treasure, and they never found anything. Curse of Oak Island. It's just so frustrating.
Listen, you want one that's really going to irritate you worse than Oak Island? It's Blind Frog Ranch.
Blind Frog Ranch is fantastic.
That one irritated me more than probably Oak Island, Curse of Oak Island.
My thing is on this show, like so on Blind Frog Ranch, we're getting off topic again though. Is they'll go and do something and they'll find like evidence of, oh my gosh, it's right here. We're about to find it.
Look, I found this little
And
gold
then
coin.
3 seasons later, they haven't even gone back there yet.
Yeah,
You're like,
that's the
wait.
same with Oak Island. Is like they determine that it's pretty much at the swamp, and we need to
Yeah.
drain the swamp. And then they're like, next thing you know, they're like on the other side of the island, and you're like,
Yes,
dude, what happened to the swamp?
right.
And it's like, you know that everybody has dug in that location so many times, they've just probably pushed it so far deep down, nobody's getting to it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Or it's just, not, I mean, they have found like little things, but
Yeah, but I don't know.
I don't know
my
what
head's
they're
on
actually
any of that at this
expecting. Are
point.
they expecting a huge, like, treasure chest?
Yes.
Like with the map to show you where the next one's
haven't
at?
you seen like Scrooge McDuck dive into the gold coin room? Like that's what I'm expecting.
Is
I
this a
want
cart?
them to
This
get
is
to
not a
it,
cartoon. This
and
is
it just
real
be this
life. You just
giant
compared
room
it
of
to.
gold and rubies and emeralds
Right.
and
Well, no one's
diamonds.
coming back for the Knights
like
Templar
national
now.
treasure when he lights it up.
Yes, exactly.
All right, get on subject, Jeremy.
All right. Well, that's all I've got for this, but I want to talk to Brandon. Tell us what you've got coming up. Remind everybody what your channel is and all that good stuff.
Okay. Well, Brandon, I do a little bit of everything. Seems like I do movie reviews. I reaction videos to TV shows now. I just opened a Funko Pop mystery box. I talk about cursed movie sets, cursed actors, a little bit of everything. I try to talk about it. Upcoming stuff I have, where I recap an episode of My Strange Addiction. And I have a movie review, movie reaction, where I kind of do a play-by-play and kind of make fun of it the best I can. From a movie from my childhood called Munchie. Super
Nice.
cheesy in the 90s, but I loved it, and I'm here to make fun of it. So that's what I have coming up so far.
That is a fantastic, by the way.
Have you seen it?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. Dom DeLuise, Lonnie Anderson.
Absolutely. And I was a WKRP in Cincinnati. I had to watch anything with or did you say Louis Anderson? Lonnie.
Well,
He was
not
on.
Louis Anderson, but Lonnie
Yeah.
Anderson.
I had to watch everything Lonnie Anderson was. Kidding me? I was a teenage boy.
Oh, yeah. But I do love Louis Anderson as well, though.
Yeah, Louis Anderson, entirely different. But for some reason, all of a sudden, I was thinking like, surely Dom DeLuise and Louis Anderson weren't in the same movie. But,
I was the same exact person back in the day. But I've literally never met anyone else who's seen Munchie.
oh, that's a cult classic.
Right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Now, Munchie Strikes Back is not.
Yeah, I don't know that I knew that.
Yeah, it does. And I was going to make a separate video on it. I stopped it about 25 minutes into me watching it because I was like, this is so terrible. Like, it was so bad that I can't even make fun of it. It was that bad. So,
rough.
yeah.
Well, before we get to Mitchie and what she wants to see us do here on the channel, what things she wants us to come up with, I do want to just tell everybody, make sure you go to B for Brandon, check out his content, subscribe if you enjoy it, and be sure to like the videos and all that stuff. Guys, I don't know if you know it, but subscribing doesn't cost anything. It just says, it's just something to do. Be sure to go check out Brandon's content, and I'll go back if he's, he should already be linked in the description.
It is.
Go check out B for Brandon and subscribe to things. And then while you're doing that, be sure to do that for us too. If you guys like this content, be sure to subscribe here as well. And reach out to us. Let us know what you want to see upcoming. Follow our community tab because we're going to be putting a lot of stuff in there to notify you guys as to what we've got coming up and do polls and different things. So we got that. But Mitchie, I wanted to ask you, with the next couple of weeks being Area 51, which I know you're a big fan of, that'll be exciting.
I'll have a lot.
Yeah, we may just not even structure Area 51 and just flow
It's a
with it.
lot easier for me.
Yeah. And then
Sorry.
and then Area 51 and then the Knights Templar will be kind of leading into Curse of Oak Island will be the next few. But what do you want to see coming up? Because we've got all kinds of topics to cover, things we haven't even covered yet.
I don't know.
Okay, that's what I like.
I kind of want to. I kind of want to switch you spots for a show.
Okay.
Like you sit here, like you can kick your feet up and
All right.
You,
Well,
you give me my step stool because I'm.
we have stories about missing people, like the strange disappearances where people will disappear for months and years at a time and then reappear with no explanation or memory or understanding of what's going on. We have conspiracy theories that turned out to be true, like the MK Ultra and CIA drug trafficking, as well as like Watergate, things like that. Um, Everybody's crazy until they're proven right, and then it's no longer a conspiracy theory. So, but we also have more conspiracy theories in general, more lost treasures, cryptids. We still got to get into the Loch Ness Monster and the Chupacabra and Mothman and all those characters. More UFO sightings. We have the Betty and Barney Hill abduction, which was the first known abduction in the United States. We're going to talk about that
What
one.
about that? I was going to say, and there's that other one. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but that one UFO house, or the not UFO house, but the what is that farm? It's like somebody's farm, and it was a family.
I don't know. I'll have to look it up.
I cannot think of the
I'm
name
sure
of
it's
it.
probably on here.
It's
'cause
probably.
there's a
I don't
bunch
think
of
it
them.
is because you didn't add half the stuff that I would have put on there.
No, mine are very Betty and Barney Hill. We got the Lubbock Lights, the Battle of Los Angeles, which is a great one. The Phoenix Lights,
That one's a good one too. I mean, that's
Rendlesham Forest Incident. Yeah, Roswell, obviously. There's all kinds on here. Stephenville UFO sighting, but there's stuff that's not even we haven't talked about yet. And then we're going to get into cults like Heaven's Gate and Jonestown, Branch Davidians, the Manson family, all those as well.
and I do want to like at some point, and I have mentioned this before about talking about the Vatican.
Yes, the basement of the Vatican or the basement of the Alamo. What's under the Vatican?
Where Pee Wee's bike is hidden.
That's where Pee Wee's bike is. Absolutely. But we'll get into that. We got the Family International. There's all kinds of cults that we can cover as well. And then urban legends. Urban legends are kind of a standby topic because what I want to do is just discuss the origin of where these urban legends come from, because some of those stories are great. The actual urban legend of standing in front of a mirror and saying Bloody Mary 3 times and this thing's going to jump out at you. I mean, I don't know how much excitement I can put into that for an hour or two in a podcast, but the origin.
I think you should have Mitchie test all of these.
Have Mitchie test them? That's a great idea.
What am I testing?
All the urban legends.
I'll do it.
Standing in front of the mirror. So you got Bloody Mary, Slender Man, the Hook, Vanishing Hitchhiker, the Babysitter, and the Man Upstairs. That's when they're calling you from in the house.
Oh, yeah.
The Clown Statue, the Choking Doberman, the Licked Hand. There are all kinds of, I mean, there's just so many urban.
Candyman, is Candyman another one?
Yep, Candyman.
That one's a really good story too.
But the Candyman origin story is fantastic. Right?
Yeah.
So
right.
We could talk about that, but when you get into some of the other stuff, a little bit. Lots of strange topics that we're going to get into, all kinds of. So,
yeah,
I think moving forward, maybe, I think sometimes the research and the structure and writing all the notes and doing all the thing takes away from the actual interaction part of it. So maybe I'll dial that back a little bit and just talk more openly and freely, because Mitchie, that gets you interacting as well.
Do you remember when we did those?
Medicinal.
What did we do? Oh, I probably shouldn't go off topic like this, but do you remember when we did like the J&M podcast thing?
Yes, where we just picked a topic and then we just...
And we didn't have nothing. We just sat there. You and I went back and forth, and we literally could talk for like an hour, because that's just...
Yeah, we'll probably go more that format and style. I just don't want to miss some of the, detailed points that make them, like, what made The Omen a cursed movie set, maybe the most cursed movie set of all time. It's important that we cover all those topics, and if I'm just free-flowing, I may forget half. So,
yeah.
We'll see. Anyway, it's not the time to critique it. It's just been a fun and exciting evening, and we have gone way longer than we normally would, but mostly because of the amazing people on this screen that's not in this corner. But I appreciate all of you guys being here.
I appreciate that Brandon taught me new stuff that Jeremy didn't teach me.
Well, Brandon's good at teaching things
He
that I
is.
don't teach. Yes. She says that she learned more from you out of this whole thing than she did me. But
I appreciate
anyway,
it.
I do want to take a moment to thank everybody here on screen and also everybody at home watching, whether you're watching now or at a later date. Thank you for supporting us and hanging out with us. You could be anywhere and your time is valuable and you chose to spend it with us. So I truly appreciate that. Thank you. Stay tuned for all the things that we've got coming up. Go check out B for Brandon. Thanks for watching here. Be sure to subscribe, like, do all those things for us as well. Have a great night, and we will